Hey guys, welcome back to Scuff Citizen, and we're gonna go over the Jump Point magazine. It is the monthly subscriber only public publishing by RSI and Cloud Imperium, and yeah, we're gonna have our good friend what's his name, John. Our assistant is gonna read it for us.
Welcome to the first jump point of 2024. You might have noticed we're a week later than usual this time, the reason being the recently concluded Capture the Idris event. Although we were ready to press publish, we didn't want to spoil the hero ship for players looking to experience it for themselves. We hope you had a great time tackling the biggest predator in the verse and managed to make it past the defenses to see inside firsthand. If not, don't worry, we've got you covered. But first, we're looking back at the first event of its kind. Why was the unveiling of the legendary Anvil F8C Lightning known internally as Project Darkwater? We wish we could tell you, but no one involved actually knows. Anyway, we spoke to the team that many of you met, shot, or were killed by in your hunt for platinum licenses to find out how Game Master events are planned and managed. A huge thanks to Michael Bayer-Smith and the team for taking us through it. Then, you can pore over the floor plan and details of the titular ship from the recent Capture the Idris event. Creating a behemoth like this is a huge undertaking, so it's worth appreciating the details without the distraction of gunfire and approaching enemy fighters. Our latest behind-the-scenes article peers into the development of last year's arguably coolest ship, the Gatac Syulen, including early kit-bashed models, abandoned directions, and unreleased concept art. Finally, Jeremy Malul, one of our ever-talented narrative writers, gives us the in-fiction history of the infamous Headhunters, one of the gangs you'll be meeting later this year. Thanks so much for continuing to read Jump Point. We can pester pretty much any team here at SIG, so don't hesitate to let us know if there's something you'd like us to dig into. We'll see you in the verse. Jump Point team. Jump Point at cloudimperiumgames.com. Writer and copy editor. Mid-2023, hush discussions and clandestine meetings began around SIG Studios. On a strictly need-to-know basis, a small group of devs and production staff were introduced to Project Darkwater. Through locked-down Jira pages and private Teams chats, a plan was devised, one that even the few involved didn't expect. To celebrate Star Citizen's birthday on October 10th, the Anvil F8C lighting would be unleashed into the verse for all to see. While the F8C hadn't followed the usual POO ship pipeline, it was close to flight ready thanks to work on Squadron 42, needing only a few tweaks, a Polish pass, and a lot of QA testing for its Stanton debut. The importance of the F8C wasn't lost on anyone.
He said a Polish pass.
When devising its launch, so various grand ways to welcome it into the verse were considered. Helpfully, last year's introduction of Persistent Entity Streaming, PES, had made Game Master events possible, most recently seen during Capture the Idris, which feature groups of devs launching into the POO to challenge players in a variety of ways. So, to take advantage of this, two tiers of tickets were created. The first, the gold ticket, was added to the loot table as a rare drop.
That's so fucking cool. Like, that's just fucking dope.
Gave lucky players a 24-hour test flight of the new heavy fighter and the ability to add one to their fleet from the pledge store. The second, the platinum ticket that gave recipients a free F8C, which spawned in with devs, who would guard it with their lives. This is where PES was vital, as the platinum ticket needed to persist in the game world after its original owner's demise and remain long enough for the new owner to exchange it for their new F8C. With the ship and event ready, the final piece of the puzzle was who would take on the challenge of protecting the valuable platinum tickets. Enter the player experience team who, among many vital player and gameplay-related responsibilities, get their hands dirty during Game Master events. We spoke to Director of Player Experience Michael Bayer-Smith to find out more about running an event like this and ask some of the Game Masters themselves about what they got up to during the hunt. Michael Bayer-Smith, what role did you and the team play in the Darkwater event? Essentially, I was the lead Game Master and Director for the in-game side of this event, helping coordinate the setup, rules, and the kinds of scenarios we wanted to create for players. I was also involved in the planning cycle and originally suggested this setup as a way to give away the tickets. The player experience team were leveraged heavily for helping run these events, but it was a multi-team effort with direct participation from missions, arena commander, community, player relations, and many others. How many people were involved? Each event had a core assignment of people to run it and a pool of optional volunteers to help, with the pool being largely different each time, although at most events myself and Nathan Coy, Wikipedia, were on hand to direct. Overall, I would estimate 20 to 30 people from all over the company directly participated at some point. How did you prepare for the Game Master event? We start with an idea for a cool experience we can create using the tools we have available. We then walk through it, trying to figure out what pitfalls might exist and sometimes run a few experiments to see how it works. Often these experiments happen in secret locations on the live environment. What was the process during the event itself? The event itself can be split into two parts. The time we still have the ticket and the time we switch to monitoring the ticket once it passed into players' hands. During the first part, it was mostly about trying to put on a good show and doing our best to make the encounter fun. After, it was about tracking and looking out for bugs that we may need to try and intervene with to work around. How did this event influence your approach to other Game Master events? What went well? What will change in the future? The scale of the battles and the cooperation and communication between players was really something to behold, absolutely amazing. In the future, we do want these events to not be all about combat and maybe incorporate a little bit of investigation, inventiveness, and storytelling. Do you have a
like, imagine a company's like, hey, let's put together an event and we're going to be the NPCs. Like, they were the NPCs.
Message for the community? We would love to hear from you on what you thought of the events and any
it was to like give us a taste of like what could be happening in the future.
Feedback you have. WHO. Role. Favorite vehicle. Wikipedia Player Experience Supervisor Banu Defender. WHO. Role. Favorite vehicles. Nobel 737, aka Star Otter, Associate Producer Anvil Carrick, Anvil F7A/C/CM, Origin 400i. WHO. Role. Favorite vehicle. Linaic Nico Readinger Community Manager Gatac Syulen. What did you do with your platinum tickets? Everything from creating huge Idris battles at the Javelin crash site to in-game bar citizen scavenger hunts. Please share the details of an encounter with the community that led to them getting a ticket. Seeing players snake in on foot while massive battles were raging above them and A2 bombs going off all around them and having a friend swoop in to pick them up was so epic. Anything else you'd like to share or say to the community? Running these events was so thrilling and was an absolute joy to be as creative as possible to come up with as many fun and engaging scenarios as we could. It was like creating and DMing a one-shot D&D campaign. Seeing where players get creative in ways we didn't expect was a blast. What did you do with your platinum tickets? I defended our carriers and had fun with ballistas going BRRRRR. Please share the details of an encounter with the community that led to them getting a ticket. Friday the 13th, a team of us gathered on Daymar at a cave and prepared ourselves with a lot of railguns. A lot of railguns and awesome scary bear masks. I still love the screenshot we took in front of the cave before we started. We had tons of fun blasting some ships trying to land in the cave and seeing the fight between all parties. At the end, DOS Cartel triumphed and, as a guest on their team speak, I visited them on their channel and was welcomed with an amazing group of totally hyped players. All had tons of fun and sent greetings to the team and told me how much fun this was. Anything else you'd like to share or say to the community? It was a lot of fun, one of the best events I was able to be part of, and I hope to see many of you again at some other events like this. I really hope we will do more of these community dev interactive events, no matter if PvP or not. 07 Commanders, what did you do with your platinum tickets? I watched people die to have them, hee. I was mostly on foot or in a ballista to deter players from getting close to the platinum license bearer. Please share the details of an encounter with the community that led to them getting a ticket. While I was firing full cannons with my ballista on the ground, I hear two distinct booms near my vehicle. I thought it was just random explosions nearby, but no. A player broke in my vehicle and stabbed me. He then ran away while I could hear him laugh in VoIP. That was awesome, and gruesome, and super fun at the same time. Well played, random citizen. Anything else you'd like to share or say to the community? It's not an easy task to run these events, but it was insanely motivating to see players reminiscing about the old MMO games where game masters interacted with the community. This is something I miss too, and I was happy to join the other teammates at SIG to help protect a few of these events while the player experience team spearheaded the Darkwater initiative. I hope to support more of these events, with improved tools, to make it an even more thrilling experience for the community. Specifications accurate at date of publish. Specifications, features and appearance are subject to revision during development. Virtual tour, Aegis Idris. The initial plans for the now iconic Aegis Idris date back to the United Planets of Earth, UP. Though conceived during the bloody throes of the First Iran War, the Idris was the product of long-term planning for the Empire's post-war expansion and was first commissioned in 2551. Initially planned as a Corvette-class ship supported by 2 patrol fighters, the goal was to build the Idris quickly and cheaply to deploy, en masse to support colonization. To expedite its arrival on the fringes of humanity, Aegis Dynamics was given a no-bid contract to design and construct the vessel. However, the ship that began space trials in 2549 bore little resemblance to the original brief. Significantly larger to the point of reclassification, the now frigate-class behemoth could support a small flotilla of fighters and bombers, haul large volumes of cargo, and protect itself with A. The new frigate was named in honor of the UP's victory at the Battle of Idris 4, 2544, a key event considered to be a turning point of the First Iran War. Devastating bow-mounted railgun. The reason for the growth was simple. The military's post-war reflection acknowledged that further colonization would be far from peaceful, so the project evolved to define the ultimate contemporary warship. The first frigate was launched in 2551 from Aegis' newly constructed factory in the Idris system, with service commencing toward the end of 2552. By 2555, following a major delay and subsequent redesign due to fire safety issues, the Idris had become a common sight across humanity's expanding empire. For the first 2 centuries of production, the Idris was strictly military, only reaching private hands in the early 2800s following the Surplus Act of 2801, which allowed approved civilian organizations to purchase demilitarized service spacecraft. By 2875, demand for the legendary war machine had greatly outstripped those being decommissioned, leading Aegis to introduce the publicly available Peacekeeper variant. Despite its civilian focus and lack of military-grade systems, the Idris P was a huge success and continues to see extensive use by corporations, militias, private security forces, and, unfortunately, outlaw groups. Component room. Mid-deck. Escape pods medbay missile room.
This shit is so sick, bro. Like, it's got like a theater area or some shit.
For over 250 years, the Intergalactic Aerospace Exposition, IAE, has opened its doors to enthusiastic citizens who pore over the latest and greatest vehicles from the Empire's most prolific manufacturers. From iconic classics to cutting-edge new releases, humanity's greatest spacefaring achievements are available throughout the event to scrutinize and, in many cases, test fly. However, the past few expos have seen participants from beyond the boundaries of the UE courtesy of the galaxy's many alien shipbuilders. And 2953 premiered one of their most radical releases. Entirely a creation of the Shen, the Gatac Syulen looks and performs like nothing born of humanity. However, as a product of 2947's Human Shen Trade Initiative that encourages commerce between the territories, it was actually designed to equally suit pilots of both species. To welcome the latest alien ship into the verse, we're going behind the scenes of the Syulen's real-world creation, from concept to release. And, as usual, it all began with a simple brief. The Shen's foray into the lower-cost ship market. Created by piling up a series of rooms connected by an elevator. Lightly armed but moderately shielded, the craft uses its high maneuverability to get it out of trouble. The Shen Starter, as it was known then, was always planned to be launched straight to flyable, so kit bashing was initially used to experiment with shapes and designs. This process involves taking elements from existing models, such as wings, cockpits, and hulls, and melding them together to create something new. While several radical options were proposed, the brief's request for a pile of rooms quickly led to the general silhouette seen in the finished ship. The final Syulen six-pointed profile was devised early on in development and chosen for further development. With the basic shape decided, work on the Shen-style vertical layout began, with a note on the brief stating, "We want to try and take advantage of the vertical space available in our landing pads to make a more vertical ship than we've made before, hence the tower approach." Canopy due to the relatively small size, landing state, and brief requirements, the layout worked best with the cockpit and hab sitting above the entrance. At this stage, cargo was planned to attach to the lower room, though was relocated to the 3 individual compartments as the exterior progressed. With such a unique landed state, a similarly unique way to access the cockpit access was required. Several options were considered, with a rotating chair arm delivering drama and functionality in equal measure. Cockpit. Habitation. Entrance. By the first pass review, the Shen Starter's landing animations had progressed alongside the exterior. Each component of the ship's silhouette was then better defined, including the cargo pods and main thruster placement. With the overall shape locked in, maneuvering thrusters were placed and the cargo pods were refined. Additional visual detail was also added to the chassis, including unique beveling and lighting to the wings. Material detailing was then experimented with to emphasize the alien feel and differentiate it from both human vehicles and existing Shen ships from Opoa. The interior received a similar pass, including lighting to highlight the organic styling. Materials were also added to tick off a feature specifically for Shen pilots, which the brief referred to as a small meditation space, just a nicely textured wall for the Shen to lean against. For the second pass review, a new carbon fiber look material was added to sections of the interior that dramatically altered the ship's appearance. A full interior and exterior lighting pass was completed, accentuating the closed hexagon shape when landed. Various paints were suggested, with the automotive flip paint style purple and blue being chosen for the base model. More detail was added, including animations for refueling, the pilot seat, and entrance stairs. A pass by the narrative team also saw the addition of alien text and the Shen Starter officially became the Gatac Syulen. With the design finalized, concept art, unseen until now, was created to aid the devs in its final implementation. Gatac Syulen specification. Gatac Syulen specification. Once in engine, promotional imagery was created by the marketing art team ready for its release at IE 2953. Already a favorite around SIG due to its unique design and intricate animations, the Syulen was extremely well received by the community, making it one of the most popular ship releases of the year. Gatac Syulen specification. Gatac Syulen specification. Role, starter length, width, height, seats. Gatac Syulen specification. Quantum fuel tank, 2XS1 quantum drive. Editor's note, this portfolio is not intended to glorify or condone illegal activity. Instead, it's meant to educate readers on the Headhunter's history, actions, and areas of influence. Only by fully understanding the operations and motivations of criminal organizations like the Headhunters can we help people who are required to travel through Pyro. Among the gangs that operate in the Pyro system, the Headhunters stand out for both their longevity and their adherence to a set of principles some might even go so far as to call honorable. Today, they are best known as Xenothreat's greatest rivals for control of Pyro, a long way from their humble origins as smugglers and thieves in the Virgil system. So how did this criminal group come to power and maintain their ethos as criminals with a code for over several hundred years? Far Star, near misses. In 2412, the UE began the Project Far Star initiative to expand the Empire's borders outward from the recently discovered Virgil system. As the launching point for many of these colonial initiatives, Virgil flourished with resources and opportunity. 200 years later, Project Far Star had become a defining moment of humanity's colonial expansion era, but the government funding that launched this initiative gradually dwindled. In its place, corporate interests took over, leveraging their sizable coffers to buy out the contracts the government had formed with local groups, taking over operations for themselves. The financial vacuum that formed in the wake of this change led to many of Virgil's inhabitants falling on hard times, even as the world itself remained wealthy and important within the scope of the UE. Pilots, in particular, were disproportionately impacted by the economics at play, as the corporations who profited the most generally boasted large fleets they could use to replace the pilots and consolidate profits. While specifics are hard to pin down, reports from the 2610s indicate that the headhunters first emerged from the ranks of these unemployed pilots, who claimed to have turned to crime not for vengeance, but for survival. Though the disenfranchised pilots were out of work, the shipping routes through Virgil were busier than ever, providing plentiful targets to choose from. The pilots that would later become known as the headhunters initially chose to target transports belonging to the companies that had abandoned them, rarely employing violence when intimidation sufficed. The pilots then used their knowledge of the surrounding systems to establish successful smuggling routes from Virgil to Terra through the lawless systems of Nyx and Pyro. Their early success attracted attention from local authorities, but traveling through Nyx and Pyro proved to be an effective way to avoid capture. Not only that, but these riskier paths happen to be far faster than standard shipping routes, making it easier for these fledgling thieves to turn a profit and quickly unload their cargo to meet unanswered demand. Authorities struggled to catch the thieves due to the extensive network of mules the headhunters relied on to complete the deliveries of the stolen goods they trafficked. These mules were recruited from disenfranchised groups among the local populace and developed a reputation for dealing fairly with those they worked with, enabling them to grow their network even further. It was this practice of aggressive hiring that earned the outlaw group the name headhunters. Riches and ruins. As the headhunters grew, it became harder for them to avoid the focused attention of the advocacy. In the 2620s, they left Virgil to relocate to Ruin Station in the Pyro system. After being abandoned by Pyrotechnic Amalgamated in 2563, Ruin Station quickly fell to outlaws, who used the space station as a sort of fortress. At the time though, these squatters were little more than a motley collection of small gangs and outcasts, so they did not put up much meaningful resistance against an organized outfit like the headhunters, who were able to quickly consolidate control of Ruin Station and eventually transform it into far more than a simple stronghold. It was during this era that the headhunters truly came into their own as a criminal group. They adopted the human skull as a symbol in their tattoos, personal decor, and graffiti, which they used to warn other criminals that the marked area was under their control. They also established a divided command structure that allowed the pack to control large swaths of territory, while the top of the headhunters had a single chief who would guide the overall direction of the group and be a final arbiter. Areas of space were divided into regions that were assigned to individual judges, high-ranking members of the headhunters who had the freedom to run their crews as they saw fit, so long as they operated under the loose tenets of the gang. At any given time, 4 of these most trusted judges would serve as an advisory council to the chief of the gang, helping set the direction of the group and electing a new chief when the time came. This flexible structure made it easy for the headhunters to maintain some individuality without ever having the influence to drive control of the organization. Finally, even as they grew, the headhunters made a point of never betraying those who were loyal to them, while coming down hard on traitors, loose cannons, and rival groups who sought to undermine their authority within Pyro. With the headhunters' consistent willingness to strike deals with rivals, they quickly grew a reputation as unusually trustworthy criminals. Gangs from surrounding systems knew that if they didn't cross the headhunters, Pyro could be a sort of haven for them. Under their perhaps unintentional stewardship, Pyro began to grow into the hub of criminal activity it is known as today, with criminals of all sorts gathering around the burgeoning black market trading post that Ruin Station had become. But as Pyro prospered, larger criminal factions turned their attention to the system, and the headhunters would struggle to survive their new challengers. The hammer drops. While the headhunters have largely enjoyed a dominant position in Pyro in the centuries since they were first established, it would be an overstatement to say that they truly controlled the system. Though the headhunters were a centralizing influence for Pyro, especially in the years immediately following their takeover of Ruin Station, gangs from surrounding systems continued attempting to lay claim to the system and station. Some fell to the headhunters, either absorbed by the gang or destroyed entirely. Others decided to carve out their own little slices of the system. Only a few managed to take Ruin Station for themselves, though most failed to control it for long before the headhunters or another rival group took their place, leaving the defeated gang to fade into history. Of all the rivals that the headhunters faced, none challenged them more than the Drop Kings, a major criminal syndicate of smugglers and enforcers. A contemporary of the headhunters, the Drop Kings quickly rose to prominence on the back of profits earned from smuggling goods and people to and from Banu space. In the 2740s, they turned their attention to the Pyro system, intent on seizing the profitable smuggling routes the headhunters had been utilizing. What followed was a series of conflicts that caused control of Ruin Station to pass back and forth between the gangs for almost 2 centuries, breeding a deeply rooted rivalry. The headhunters only survived by recruiting smaller gangs to join the fight on their behalf, to defend the system they had come to see as theirs. The headhunters' ongoing battle with the Drop Kings only ended recently, in 2912, when the Drop Kings became involved in a feud with the Terra-based Rongda Syndicate, forcing them to dial back their activities in Pyro and allowing the headhunters to reclaim Ruin Station, though only for a few more decades. The headhunters today. With the Drop Kings out of the way, the Headhunters were poised to cement themselves as the reigning power in Pyro, but while their attention was focused on this rivalry, more and more gangs flocked to the system to stake their claim. The greatest trouble came from the most recent entrant to the Pyro system, Xenothreat. The extremist organization was able to take control of Ruin Station from the Headhunters in 2947, and though the Headhunters continue to fight to reclaim the station, they face an uphill battle against the far more ruthless and militarized criminal group. Only time will tell if the Headhunters will succeed in reclaiming Ruin Station. What we do know is that Xenothreat's dominance within Pyro presents the Headhunters with an existential threat. If Xenothreat continues to remain a dangerous threat to the UE systems around Pyro, it's possible the advocacy, or the military, will no longer be content to leave the lawless system of Pyro alone. However, it is possible the Headhunters might be able to endure. The latest generation of Headhunters, led by their current chief, Kemabats Feral, are more cool-headed, calculated, and vicious than ever before. Under her leadership, it isn't a stretch to suspect that even as Pyro remains as tumultuous and violent a system ever, the Headhunters will always have a place in the system. Love never dies. www. Shot Heart, Earthlight Picturesque.
Jesus Christ. Oh, this is the last one. Shot to the heart. Okay, so that was the... Damn, chat. I really like that. I think we're gonna start doing these. Like, I really enjoyed the lore here. On top of, like, I think I kind of want to grab this. I think it's only $5 extra than the ship I already have. So, and I don't have any alien ships, and the alien ships fly the best. But yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate you. Just let me split this video, guys, and then we'll get started on some gameplay.